I'll try to keep this short. I was playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It was all going well. Dual class variant. We reached level 3, returned to town, tried buying some gear, and after selling some loot, my Animal Instinct Barbarian, my other class was Wild Order Druid, had just enough for hand wraps of mighty blows. I buy them, and make a comment about how my antler attacks will be at a +1. GM then says, no, they only apply to attacks with the fist. This is not how that works in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. They affect every unarmed strike. This is particularly important for Animal Instinct Barbarians, who are not allowed to use weapons whilst raging. The GM argues that hand wraps are intended for monks. Every other class should just use a weapon. Again, if I attack with a weapon whilst raging, I lose the ability to rage. I cite sources. I post videos. Nope, GM has ruled that this isn't allowed. When I point out that this makes my character unplayable beyond level 5 or so, because my attacks cannot keep up with what the system expects. When I ask if I can respec my character to something that will actually work with this rule, I get booted. TLDR. Due to either not understanding the rules or badly house ruling, DM guarantees that my character is going to break, then boots me for objecting. In my opinion, it's perfectly fine to make a house rule that makes certain character builds impossible, whether for balance at your own particular table, or if the abilities in question add things to your setting that you don't want, and disrupt the fiction, tone, and genre of your game. Or if you just think that it's stupid, and encourages a mindset that allows people to treat their D&D characters like they're theory crafting in an MMO, instead of playing in a living world in a tabletop game. It is far less okay to do this, when doing so completely destroys the character fantasy that you both agreed on, while not offering an alternative. Weird that they just booted them for this too. But then again, people sometimes omit how they actually reacted in their own stories, to make themselves not seem so crazy in comparison. Aren't you the human pet guy? Oh no. Yes he is, and holy flock. Wait, what? I'm so sorry. Oh god, there's a link. Do I want to know? I can't, I have to. I mean, how bad could it be, right? Me wearing a dog collar and leash, looking up at my man friend in his trench coat and fedora. Let's go out in public where you can walk me like I'm a dog in front of people who are visibly uncomfortable. It's not a flippin' fedora, it's a bowler hat. Keep goobin', goober. A fedora is a fedora is a fedora. Anyway, with regards to the original post, what would actually be wrong with that? There is no mention of public nudity, nor of treating the human pet in a way that would be considered strange for a dog. Should people be obliged to modify their behavior so that the irrationally prejudicial do not experience discomfort? Irrationally prejudiced? Motherfucker, admit you have a pet play fetish. There's no shame in it on this website. Okay, just please consider the following scenario. It's 5 to 10 years from now. You're sitting in a restaurant enjoying a lovely meal when I walk in, accompanied by my wife, my children, and my human pet, whose genitals are covered as it enters on all fours and is wearing underpants. They don't pay me enough to read this shit. If my family and I then make an order of our own at the table next to you, in what way have we infringed upon your freedom? What rational basis do you have to demand that we leave our beloved pet at home? Heck it all. Let's consider a more extreme scenario. It's 5 to 10 years from now. You're sitting in a restaurant, enjoying a lovely meal when I walk in, without my wife and children. For whatever reason, they haven't accompanied me. Gee, I wonder why. Probably reporting your ass to the Human Rights Watch. With my surgically modified human pet, wearing a collar, being led in by its leash. My pet has been spayed/neutered, though you can't tell, because its genitals, along with its boobies if it's a female— why did you fucking say it like that? Have been covered up. It has no vocal cords, and walks on all fours, not by choice, but because its toes have been removed, along with the tendons in its ankles being severed. It may also have had its thumbs and the last 2 segments of each finger amputated, making it easier to care for. no fingernails to trim. Perhaps I've even humanely removed its eyes, making it less independent. Even in this scenario, I have not infringed upon your liberties. Irrationally prejudiced is precisely what you are. Hey, beg the fuck pardon? You know, for as infamous as this post is, you'd think there'd be a lot more than 14,000 notes. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the OP omitted a couple things. My name is Jacob Crow, and welcome to the Crow's Perch, where I actively participate in the self-flagellation of my eyeballs to the encore of over 10,000 people per video, as I recount the terrible horror stories about my favorite hobby, tabletop role-playing games. What I mean to say is, let's get those numbers up. Only 30% of you are subscribed, so, fix that. In our next story, we find out why people who run Cyberpunk in Dungeons & Dragons should just play Cyberpunk Red instead. So, without further ado, let's homebrew our 5th edition games until it becomes an eldritch horror version of the Ship of Theseus, but with a budget Keanu Reeves replacement. As we gather up a murder and dive in— oh wait, it's Cyberpunk— and jack into this next story. A friend of mine had invited me to join a random one-shot of some Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition someone in his server was hosting, with a few of our mutual friends who would be playing for the very first time. Why not? Couldn't be too bad, I thought. Oh, how naive I was. The DM was running a Tokyo-esque cyberpunk setting, which was fairly exciting at first. And he also claimed to be a rather experienced DM, which enticed me into the game further. The issues started early, with the DM's odd arrogance and adamancy that the one-shot would turn into a full campaign, saying things like, "All my previous one-shots have turned into campaigns," smirk emoji, in cocky manners. It was a bit off-putting off the bat. He also was adamant that we have a healer. Apparently only one NPC in the entire setting sold healing potions, or something of the sort. That was a bit weird as well. He also told us how we were going to go from level 2 to level 3 mid one-shot, which I found quite odd. He continued to forewarn us how we'd only level up if we interacted a certain way with a certain NPC, and if some of us didn't, we'd be behind a level. Big spoiler here, we never fucking met this NPC, nor did we make it to level 3. Now, I found this pretty odd, especially considering the fact that there are 3 new players at this table, and that everyone gaining their subclasses and leveling up in the middle of a one-shot might be kind of strange for said new players. I mentioned to one of the new players that leveling up mid-game is kind of weird, and to not stress about it when it comes up, to which the DM became incredibly defensive, and went on to tell me how I shouldn't hamper creative vision, and that he asked many experienced DMs about it. The DM also allowed one of the players to play over text the entire game. He didn't read out the text or anything himself, and play sound effects for their character. It was really awkward when we actually got into the game. One last issue before the game is that the DM demanded we use the dice on D&D Beyond. I explained to the DM that on my laptop, D&D Beyond dice are super choppy, and take up to 30 seconds to actually roll. To which the DM just told me to roll your dice before your turn in combat. When I explained to him how fucking stupid that is, and spent a solid 5 minutes arguing about it, he luckily added a dice bot to the server we were playing in. We haven't even gotten to the game itself yet, and it's already falling apart. And to the DM, you're telling the people that live in a world where they can replace all of their limbs by going to a clinic and getting them sawn off and replaced with robo-arms, that they don't have any sort of portable stimulants or coagulants or whatever to heal themselves when they get a boo-boo at the park? I'll be honest, I don't care if having only one healer in this world makes it more balanced or whatever. Even this small move completely destroys the fiction of the universe, and the genre, and makes me think that this DM doesn't know anything about cyberpunk at all. But before I peck out this Choom's Kuroshi optics, let's get back to this scream sheet of a story. My friend who invited me had already dipped from all the red flags, but still wanted to listen in. I only stayed to try and help the new players have a slightly better experience, and to witness whatever the flock this game would turn out to be like. Oh boy, did it turn out to be something special. Finally, we began the game, and something immediately struck me. Oh my flocking god, he's playing Vocaloid during the game. He played Vocaloid and later Japanese rap throughout the entire flocking one-shot. Not even instrumentals, not even like hand-picked tracks at least. His entire flocking playlist of Vocaloid music was playing through the entire game. To say it was distracting is putting it mildly. Okay. After I got over the whiplash of the Vocaloid, our party met with a character who would hire us to do a job. The guy wanted us to go investigate some murders in the city for pay. Okay, cool. This still might be okay. The new players began role-playing their asses off immediately. It was a really cool sight, honestly, as they tried to haggle this guy for a mild increase in pay. To which the character and DM shut down to an insane degree. No reciprocation of the new player's really fun roleplay, no persuasion rolls, and he even began threatening the party that if we kept trying to roleplay, we basically wouldn't even get the quest, and the game would end. So we reluctantly all set out to do the quest. This is also where it became apparent that the DM did not help out any of the 3 new players make their sheets, or teach them anything about D&D or the mechanics. After leaving the worst roleplay experience ever, we left the guy's headquarters. One of the new players asked the DM to recount some of what the guy told us before we head out to do his job, and what the DM said next flashbanged me into next week, and might have given me a flocking concussion. The DM asked, "Roll me a history check." I was flabbergasted, bamboozled, bewildered, befuddled. The DM wanted a history check to recall what the NPC had just said to us 0.5 nanoseconds ago. I didn't mention anything, but I was in a state of complete and utter shock. Don't forget the Vocaloid is still playing. Luckily, the players succeeded their check. Who flocking knows if we could have even gotten to play if they failed. And we started searching for information in the area. We made our way into another part of the city, where the DM randomly decided to bring up the red lights district in the area, which was apparently right next to the school? He also thought it was necessary to mention the strange noises and grunts coming from an alley. Winky face emoji. Which weirded me the flock out personally. We started asking questions of a pleasantly offensive drug addict stereotype, who was just as great as you'd think he is. At this point, we started noticing that basically every NPC would react to us in the exact same way. Being weirded out by the party and acting super abrasive. Every single NPC acted the exact same flocking way. And it got kind of exhausting. After nearly 2 hours of absolute nothing, meandering, trying to find information on the murders from cookie-cutter weirded out NPCs, we finally found an NPC who proceeded to describe, and I shit you not, the exact words used were, a hauntingly beautiful 4th grader around the area.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
That description and the way it was said had the whole table weird champing the fuck out. And don't forget, Vocaloid was underscoring that description. Anyway, this info led us to a boarding school trying to find the hauntingly beautiful 4th grader. The DM kept making non-stop PDF file jokes about our characters and shit while we were investigating, which was really uncomfortable for all of us. At this time, the Vocaloid playlist ran out, so one of the new players had to start playing music to fill the dead air. Luckily, it was OSTs for scenes, and not Hatsune Miku. No offense to the Queen Miku. We finally found the 4th grader who was possessed, or something like that. And 3 hours into the one-shot, we had our first combat. Finally! I was so happy to at least have something that wasn't shitty RP or PDF file jokes. Unfortunately for us, the combat didn't even last 1 round. The yokai and the hauntingly beautiful 4th grader herself decided to skedaddle, and the combat ended. Okay, we guessed we had to follow it, so we did. Only to find ourselves in a hallway puzzle with 7 doors, which were magic-proof. So we couldn't try and do anything clever with the puzzle. At this point we were going overtime of where we were supposed to, but luckily for us, the DM could keep going. Extra lucky for us, one of the new players decided to straight lie to get us out of the one-shot, and said they had to go. Thank you. Thank God. The DM asked us when we could all come back for another game, and we all awkwardly said we weren't interested in another one, and left. The poor new players said they did not end up having a good time, and holy fuck, neither did I. I'm going to be honest, I don't believe this guy was a very experienced DM at all. This is only a peek behind the curtain of absolute fucking boredom and misery we experienced playing this game. Let this be a warning to all ye players, beware any DM who likes to talk about hauntingly beautiful 4th graders. Edit. Oh, and I completely forgot as well. Before the game, he entirely banned multiclassing. Said that even at level 2, if you took 2 classes, the monster would have to be twice as tough. That also bewildered the flock out of me. It will forever be my cross to bear to know that D&D players will literally do anything else but try another game, and yet, despite this, I will tell them anyway. As for the story, yeah, the DM, I don't have to tell you, presumably as a grown person, why it's bad to think a 4th grader is hot, right? Please tell me I don't have to. I want to have faith in humanity again after this story. But there's something else I want to say in regards to my first comment. With the release of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, there are going to be people reinvigorated in the interest of Cyberpunk and also want to look at what they could do in their own TTRPG games. Cyberpunk has its own tabletop game, Cyberpunk Red, as I mentioned before, as well as other previous editions of the game, like Cyberpunk 2020, which take place long before the video game and the show, as the name implies. And as a goober who's attempted this before, I'm going to tell you right now that you're wasting your time attempting to emulate that experience in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. You can try, sure, I can't stop you. But in that regard, I really don't have much to say to you other than good luck, I guess. But to everyone else, there are many different tabletop role-playing games that can emulate the cyberpunk genre far better than a game about wizards and dragons can. Games like Shadowrun, Cyberpunk Red, and 2020 as previously mentioned. The Sprawl, which is powered by the Apocalypse for anyone who's ever played Monster Hearts or Monster of the Week before. And yes, even GURPS. It's a fun genre, with a lot to experiment with, chock full of adult themes and social commentaries if that's where you want to go with it. Minus having to wait 2 whole years for CD Projekt Red to finish bug fixing it. And that's where we'll end today's stories. And if you enjoyed today's stories, why not leave a like on this video? And if you'd like to see more of them, then please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you made it this far, then why not leave a comment? Can't think of a comment and want to boost the algorithm anyway? Then leave the comment CHOOM, so I know you made it to the end of today's video. And as always, this channel could not exist without the help of our patrons. Patrons like our Counts of Quills, like Shar K, Kurito Kazuto, Critical Kunik, Evix, King Drazil, Christian Pip, Cosmosis, Rikus, Vincent, Haley Thompson, Zero Fang, and Netscape Navigator. But if you're chipping in like a real choom, then you're jacking into the mainframe of the Barons of Beaks. Join runners like ghostleegon, MrHypocritical, Jayvon Meighan, Jesse Schoedel, KuntosWeasel, MoetisMaou, Chunky Salsa, TechBlog, Kurestor, Cardespawn, AModestPastry, Jester King, Gintahl, Lord Rende, Gibber-Woods, Wormy, Den of the Drake, McYeetly, and Anya. No, I'm not doing a Hatsune Miku voice. You want to see that shit? How about $50, huh? But if you want to give 10 instead, then join our Dukes of Feathers, like TheSchoolBus, MirageVaxus, Shirotatsuma, Quinn, TheForgottenDruid, Jarett Suhr, Blues Otters, Jared Zemlin, General Constantine Chase, Doc Salty 96, Matthew MulQueeny, and Acroth. And with all of that out of the way, I'll see you next time, as the crow flies.